My name is Philip Levine. I turned 85 in January. I'm looking forward to another 85 years. I am a writer, hopefully a poet. I've made my living off writing and teaching at one time, but now I'm just writing. And coming to places like UTEP to give readings, sell books, meet people. Yes, I was the poet laureate for a year. I rejected a second year, which was offered to me, because I wanted to get back to my work, my real work, which is writing. As the poet laureate, it gave me an enormous opportunity to say these things in front of very large audiences, and I enjoyed it. And not everybody else enjoyed it. Sure. Not everybody else at the Library of Congress, and they had selected me, enjoyed what I said, but I could give a damn. Yeah. In many cases, it's not accessible because a good deal of American poetry is elitist. But in the last, I'd say since World War II, American poetry has become much more diverse and democratic. It's coming from places where it never came before. For example, there's a huge Chicano literary movement. There's an Asian American literary movement. There's from the Harlem Renaissance on, an American Black movement. Women are, I would say today, if you look at literary magazines, in poetry, they outnumber men. And so there's been a great movement toward democratization and variety in our poetry. And so when people say no one's reading poetry, they're absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. It's very alive. What does it accomplish? I suppose a number of things. One is it allows, say, young people reading poetry, they have the same experience I had when I was in my teens. You suddenly understand that somebody else lived your life, one very much like it, with the same kind of joys and sorrows and puzzling experiences, and endured the same kind of privations and humiliations that you, and that you were really part of a family. You were not nearly as isolated as you thought. You were one of many. And in being one of many, there was a real dignity in who you were. And I suppose that's one of the things I try to incorporate in my own poetry. I read for this marvelous writers club in Harlem. It turned out to be made up of sixth graders of all shapes and colors who were so deeply curious about how to write and how to become a writer. It was a thrilling moment. They need to know that it's possible. You know, you look at a career like poetry. Your parents, my grandfather said, "Darf man gehen in college?" He spoke Yiddish. "For this you went to college?" I was the first member of my family to go to college and graduate. And he thought I was nuts. But my mother encouraged me. I remember I was, the first year I taught at Fresno State, I had a wonderful student named Lawson Inada, Japanese American, who had actually, I didn't know it at the time, grown up in one of the internment camps during World War II. And he was in pre-med, doing very well, and he just fell in love with poetry. And he was very gifted, and I wrote a letter of recommendation for him, and he got a fellowship at the University of Iowa, which was then the most distinguished program. His mom called me. "You must intercede. Lawson is doing this idiotic thing. He's giving up his career in medicine. He was accepted at Berkeley. He wants to go off to Iowa and write poetry. Would you please talk to him about this? I said, Mrs. Sanada, that's not my chore. My students come, the things they want from me, I give them to them. I encouraged him. It's what I did. Why wouldn't I encourage him? She was quite peeved with me. Years later, Lawson became the Poet Laureate of Oregon. UTEP has obviously seen that as one of its functions to create this cultural center for Hispanic people, and I think it's absolutely what a university should be doing.